Poor girl in a wheelchair is ignored at the orphanage, until a billionaire arrives and does the unthinkable. Ethan Cole pulled his car up to the St. Jude's Children's Home that Saturday morning. At 38, he had built an empire in the architecture sector. His projects were spread across dozens of cities, and his bank account had more zeros than most people could imagine. But none of that mattered to him at the moment. Wearing jeans and a plain shirt, Ethan grabbed the boxes of construction supplies he'd brought to donate. He could have sent an assistant to do it, but he preferred simple things. It had always been this way, even after he became rich. The director of the children's home, Ms. Clara, greeted him with a tired smile. "Mr. Cole, thank you for coming personally. The children are in the yard. We have quite a few visitors today." Ethan nodded and headed to the back, carrying the boxes. The yard was bustling with activity. Children ran back and forth, shouting and laughing. Visiting couples talked to the little ones, asking questions, taking photos, looking for that special connection. Ethan put the boxes down and watched the scene for a moment. That's when he saw her. In the furthest corner, under an old oak tree, was a small girl in a wheelchair. Blonde hair shimmered under the sunlight. Light-colored eyes looked into nothing with a sadness that didn't belong on a child that age. She held a worn-out teddy bear pressed against her chest. The toy was threadbare, with a ripped ear and its original color almost unrecognizable. Ethan noticed something that deeply bothered him. No visitor approached her. Couples walked nearby, glanced quickly, and moved on. Some didn't even look, as if she didn't exist. The girl wasn't crying, she wasn't asking for attention. She just sat there, quiet, as if she had already accepted that this was how things were. That touched Ethan in an unexpected way. He walked slowly toward her. When he got close, the girl looked up. For a second, she seemed scared. Perhaps she thought he would also leave soon. Ethan crouched down in front of her, meeting her gaze. "Hi," he said softly. "Are you okay?" The girl squeezed the teddy bear tightly against her chest. Her clear eyes studied his face, deciding if she could trust him. She shook her head slowly. "No." Ethan waited in silence. He didn't want to rush anything. After a few seconds, the girl spoke again. This time, the words came out with a devastating honesty. "No one wants to adopt me." Ethan felt as if he had been punched in the stomach. She continued, looking down at the teddy bear. "Everyone leaves, except me." The words dropped like stones. Ethan had closed multi-million-dollar deals, faced difficult investors, and built skyscrapers from the ground up, but nothing had prepared him for the raw pain in that child's voice. He took a deep breath. "You know something," Ethan said calmly. "You are a special girl." The girl looked at him. Her eyes were full of doubt. "No, I'm not," she murmured, looking away. Ethan wanted to say more. He wanted to explain that she was worth more than she imagined, that she deserved to be loved, that any family would be lucky to have her. But he realized that empty words wouldn't change anything right now, so he just remained crouched in front of her, in silence. After a few minutes, Ethan slowly stood up. "What is your name?" "Lily," she answered quietly. "Lily," Ethan repeated, committing the name to memory. "That's a beautiful name." She didn't reply, but something different passed through her gaze. Maybe curiosity, maybe a tiny piece of hope. Ethan took a step back. "It was nice to meet you, Lily," and then he turned and walked away. The rest of the day was impossible. Ethan returned to his office downtown. His office occupied the top 3 floors of a corporate building. It had an incredible view, designer furniture, and a team of 50 employees working on the floors below. But none of that mattered now. He tried to focus on the projects on his desk. He had a luxury resort to review. He had a meeting with investors at 2 in the afternoon. He had contracts waiting for a signature. Nothing worked. The image of Lily alone in that corner wouldn't leave his mind. Her voice echoed non-stop. "No one wants to adopt me. Everyone leaves, except me." Ethan opened the resort blueprints and tried to analyze the technical details, but his mind wandered. He found himself thinking about what it would be like to design a space for a child like Lily, a safe place, full of light. Accessible. Why was he thinking this? He shook his head, annoyed with himself. The 2 o'clock meeting was a disaster. The investors talked for an hour about numbers and projections. Ethan nodded at the right moments, but barely registered half of what was said. His mind was miles away. It was back at the children's home, back to those clear eyes full of resignation. When the meeting ended, Ethan dismissed everyone and locked his office door. He sat in his leather chair and looked out the window, observing the city below. He had built an empire. He had more money than he could spend in 10 lifetimes. He could buy anything, go anywhere, do practically whatever he wanted. But none of that mattered when he thought about that little girl alone. Why was this affecting him so much? Ethan had donated millions to charities over the years. He had visited orphanages before, had seen dozens of children in difficult situations. Why was this girl different? Maybe it was the way she accepted rejection, as if she already knew she didn't deserve to be chosen. As if she had given up before even trying. That was wrong on every possible level. At 5 in the afternoon, Ethan gave up. He grabbed his car keys and drove home, but the entire way was accompanied by the same image. Lily hugging that old teddy bear. His house was enormous, modern, full of technology and impeccable design. He had designed every detail personally. But that night, the place seemed too empty. Ethan tried to work from home. It didn't work. He tried to watch something. It didn't help. He ordered food, but barely touched the plate. When night fell, and he was lying in his king-size bed, staring at the high ceiling of the room, Ethan finally admitted the truth. He couldn't forget that girl. And the worst part, he didn't want to forget. Something had changed that morning, something that no amount of money in the world could buy or explain. Ethan closed his eyes, but all he saw was Lily, alone in that yard, waiting for someone who never arrived. Ethan woke up early on Sunday with the same feeling of restlessness from the night before. He had slept poorly, tossing and turning, waking up several times with the image of Lily alone in that corner of the yard. He got up, went to the kitchen, and made coffee. He stood in front of the window overlooking the city, watching the sun rise between the buildings. He had work piled up, blueprints of a commercial complex waiting for review, emails from important clients. He could use Sunday to catch up on everything, but at 9 in the morning, Ethan was already in his car, driving towards St. Jude's Children's Home. He hadn't planned it. He simply couldn't fight the urge to go back there. He needed to see Lily again. Traffic was light that Sunday. Ethan drove automatically, his mind distant, thinking about her reaction when she saw him. When he arrived at the children's home, the yard was much emptier than the day before. Only a few children were playing outside. No visitors in sight. Ethan parked and went straight to the yard. Lily was there, in the same place as yesterday, under the same old oak tree in her wheelchair, holding the same worn-out teddy bear against her chest. Ethan started walking towards her. Lily looked up and saw him. Her clear eyes widened slightly, surprised, and then something changed completely in her face. Lily smiled. It was a small, shy, almost imperceptible smile. But it was there, real, genuine. Her first smile in this entire story. Ethan felt something stir inside his chest. He continued walking until he reached her and crouched down in front of the chair, meeting her eye level. "Hi, Lily," he said softly. "You came back," she murmured, still with that shy smile on her lips. There was genuine surprise in her voice. "I came back," Ethan confirmed. "Do you mind if I stay here for a while?" She shook her head quickly. "I don't mind." Ethan grabbed a plastic chair that was leaning against the wall and placed it next to Lily's wheelchair. He sat down slowly. This time, he wasn't in a hurry. He was just there for her. They sat in silence for a few seconds. It wasn't an awkward silence. It was peaceful. "What were you doing?" Ethan asked, pointing to her lap. Lily looked down. She had some crumpled papers on her lap and an old pencil next to the chair. "Drawing," she replied quietly. "Can I see?" Lily hesitated. Then, slowly, she picked up one of the papers and held it out to Ethan with both hands, as if giving him something precious. Ethan took the drawing carefully and felt something squeeze in his chest. It was a house. Simple, made with childish pencil strokes, but definitely a house. It had a triangular roof, a door in the center, and several windows, large windows, bigger than normal. The house was surrounded by flowers. There was even a sun in the upper corner of the paper. "Did you draw this?" Ethan asked, impressed. Lily nodded shyly. "I like drawing houses." "Why?" She shrugged. "Because houses are places where people stay together, where they feel safe." She paused. "Where no one leaves." The answer was so innocent and yet so profound that Ethan had to swallow hard. "You draw very well," he said sincerely. "Those big windows are a great idea. They let in a lot of light." Lily looked up at him, and there was a new curiosity there. "You like houses too?" "I build houses," Ethan explained. "I'm an architect. It's my job to design houses and buildings." Lily's eyes lit up in a way Ethan hadn't seen before. "Really? Really? Every day?" Lily was silent for a moment. Then she picked up another paper and showed it to Ethan. "This one has an upstairs floor," she explained. For the children to sleep away from the noise, Ethan took the paper and examined it carefully. The drawing showed a 2-story house. The proportions weren't perfect, but the intention was clear. "Very smart," Ethan said. 2-story houses are great for big families. Do you have many drawings?" Lily nodded and picked up a small pile of crumpled papers that were hidden beneath the chair. There were at least 10 or 15 drawings. She began to show him each one, explaining the details with contained excitement. She talked about where the kitchen would be, where the children would play, where the garden would be. Every house had large windows, all of them. Ethan noticed how quietly she spoke, as if she were afraid of being too loud. He paid attention to every word, asking questions, praising the details. And then, suddenly, Lily stopped talking. "Sorry," she said quickly, looking down. Ethan frowned. "Sorry for what? For talking so much," Lily murmured. "I didn't want to bother you." Ethan felt something clench in his chest. "Lily, you are not bothering me. Why do you think that?" She shrugged. "Because people don't like it when I talk a lot." "Who said that?" Lily was quiet for a moment. "No one said it, but I noticed." She looked at him with those clear eyes full of sadness. "When I talk, people get in a hurry, or they look somewhere else, or they leave." Ethan felt a rage swell inside him. Not at Lily, never at her, but at every person who had made that child believe her voice was a nuisance. "Lily, look at me," he said gently, but firmly. She lifted her clear eyes. "I like hearing you talk. You can talk as much as you want. Your drawings are incredible. Your ideas are interesting. You don't have to apologize for anything, okay?" Lily blinked a few times, trying to process those words. "Really?" she asked in a thread of a voice. "Really?" Ethan confirmed. "I promise." She smiled again. This time the smile was a little more open. Ethan spent the next hour talking with Lily. She showed him more drawings, each with its own story. She told him about the other children at the home, about who was nice and who wasn't. She talked about Mrs. Clara, who was kind but always busy, about the teddy bear she had been given years ago. "His name is Mr. Bear," Lily explained, showing him the worn toy. "Creative name, right?" Ethan smiled. "I think it's perfect." Lily giggled. It was a low, almost shy laugh, but it was real. And then, as she put her drawings away, she said something that broke Ethan's heart. "You know, I don't understand why no one wants me." The way she said it was so natural, so devoid of self-pity, that it was even worse. It was just an observation, a fact she had accepted. "I try to be good," Lily continued, looking at her hands. "I don't make messes, I don't scream, I stay quiet. But people look at me and They leave. She paused. I think it's because of the chair. People don't want a daughter who can't walk. Lily, it's okay, she said quickly. I'm used to it. Ms. Clara said that someday someone will want me. But I think she just said that so I wouldn't be sad. Ethan didn't know what to say. There were no words that could fix years of rejection, so he simply reached out and placed his hand over her small hand. You are special, Lily. Very special. Anyone with eyes and a heart can see that. He squeezed her hand gently. The chair doesn't define who you are. You are smart, creative, kind. Any family would be lucky to have you. Lily looked at him with those clear eyes full of doubt, but also with a tiny bit of hope. You really think so? I am absolutely sure. Lily smiled again. This time, the smile lasted longer, and her fingers squeezed Ethan's hand back. They continued talking. Ethan asked questions about what she liked to do besides drawing. Lily talked about how she liked listening to stories, about how Miss Clara sometimes read books to the children before bedtime. She spoke slowly, still apologizing occasionally, always checking if Ethan was still paying attention. But Ethan didn't leave. He stayed there, sitting beside her, listening to every word. At some point, Lily asked, "Do you have children?" Ethan blinked. "No, I don't." "Why?" He thought for a moment. "I guess I never found the right time. I've always been too busy with work." Lily nodded slowly. "You would be a cool dad," she said simply. Ethan felt something stir inside his chest, a feeling that was growing with every passing second he spent with that girl. When it was finally time to go, Ethan slowly stood up. "I have to go now, Lily." She tried to hide the disappointment, but Ethan saw it. "That's okay," she said quietly, hugging Mr. Bear. "But I'll be back," Ethan quickly added, crouching down to her level. "Can I come back?" Her eyes lit up. "You can, really. Really, I want to keep seeing your drawings." Lily smiled again. "See you later, Lily." "See you later, Ethan." He walked to the car with a different weight in his chest. It was something profound, something he hadn't felt in a long time. The entire drive back, Ethan couldn't stop thinking about Lily. He thought about the way she apologized for everything, as if she was afraid to exist and take up space, as if she had learned to make herself small so as not to bother anyone. He thought about how she talked about rejection with an acceptance that no 6-year-old child should have. He thought about the shy smile when she saw him arrive. He thought about the drawings of houses, all with large windows letting the light in. Houses where people stayed together, where no one left. When he got home, Ethan went to the office. He sat in his chair and stared at the wall for a long time. That child deserved more. She deserved a family, a home, someone who would make her feel that she didn't need to apologize for existing. Ethan spent the entire night thinking. He walked through the enormous house, through the empty hallways, looking at the rooms that were never used. He tried to imagine what it would be like to have Lily there. The house suddenly seemed too big, too empty. Was he crazy? He was single. He had never been married. He worked 60 hours a week. He traveled frequently. He had zero experience with children. But none of that seemed to matter when he thought about her face, about those clear eyes, full of fragile hope. At 3 a.m, Ethan was still awake, sitting on the balcony, looking at the city below. He wanted to protect that child. He wanted to give her everything she deserved. He wanted to see her smile without fear, draw without apologizing, talk without thinking she was being a nuisance. He wanted to be the person who stayed, who didn't leave. It was a crazy decision, impulsive, completely out of character for him, but it was the most certain decision he had ever made. On Monday morning, Ethan woke up with a clarity he hadn't felt in years. He had barely slept, but he was completely alert. He knew exactly what he needed to do. At 8 o'clock sharp, he picked up the phone and called the children's home. The phone rang 3 times before someone answered. "St. Jude's Children's Home, Clara speaking." Clara, good morning. It's Ethan Cole. Mr. Cole, good morning. How can I help you? Ethan took a deep breath. I would like to talk about the adoption process. There was a pause on the other end of the line. Adoption? Clara repeated, surprised. Yes. I would like to start the process to adopt Lily. Another pause. Longer this time. Mr. Cole, that is wonderful news, Clara said, and Ethan could hear the genuine emotion in her voice. But I need to explain that the process is long. There are psychological evaluations, background checks, home visits, paperwork. I understand, Ethan calmly interrupted. I'm willing to do everything necessary. How long does it usually take? It can take a few months, sometimes longer, Clara explained. But for someone like you with proven financial stability and no record, the process can be faster. What do I need to do first? We need to schedule a meeting. There are forms to fill out, initial interview. Clara paused. Mr. Cole, may I ask what led you to this decision? Ethan looked out the window. Lily is a special child. She deserves a family, and I want to be that family for her. He could hear Clara smiling on the other end. That is incredible. Lily is one of the sweetest children who has ever been here. But, well, you saw, people are afraid because of the wheelchair. The chair is not a problem for me, Ethan said firmly. I know. I realized that on Saturday when I saw you with her. They talked for 20 more minutes. Clara explained each step of the process, the documents he would need to gather, the evaluations he would face. Ethan carefully noted everything down. When he hung up the phone, he sat in silence for a moment. He had made the decision. Now he needed to do everything right. Ethan decided right then and there that he wouldn't tell Lily anything yet. He didn't want to raise her hopes in case something went wrong. Adoptions could be complicated. They could fall through. They could be denied. He didn't want to hurt Lily with empty promises. He didn't want to see that hope in her eyes turn into another disappointment. So he would do everything in silence. He would gather the documents. He would go through the interviews and evaluations. He would wait for the approval of each step, and only then, when he was absolutely sure it would work out, would he tell her. But in the meantime, he would keep visiting. He would continue to be a constant presence in her life. He would keep showing her that he wouldn't leave, because deep in his heart, Ethan already knew a simple truth. Lily had already found a permanent place in his heart, and he would do absolutely anything to give her the home she so deserved. The following weeks turned into a routine that Ethan never imagined having, but which quickly became his favorite part of the day. He visited Lily 3 and sometimes 4 times a week, on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and always on Saturdays. Sometimes he showed up by surprise on Wednesdays too, just to see her face light up when she saw him coming. The adoption process was underway. Ethan had filled out mountains of paperwork, gone through 2 long interviews with social workers, and his house had already been inspected. Everything was going well, better than he expected. But he still hadn't told Lily anything. He wanted to wait until he was absolutely sure, until he held the final document in his hands. Only then would he tell her. Meanwhile, he was building something more important than any official paper: trust. It was a Thursday afternoon when Ethan arrived at the children's home and saw something different. Lily wasn't under the oak tree. She was near the patio door, in her wheelchair, with Mr. Bear on her lap, looking toward the entrance, waiting. When she saw him, her face completely lit up. "Ethan," she called, waving her small hand. Ethan felt something warm spread through his chest. She was waiting for him, truly waiting. He walked up to her and crouched down. "Hi, Lily. Were you waiting for me?" She nodded enthusiastically. "I knew you were coming today. You always come on Thursdays." Ethan smiled. She had noticed the pattern of his visits. She was paying attention. "I brought something for you," he said, taking a new drawing pad and a box of colored pencils from his backpack. Lily's eyes widened. "For me? Just for you?" She took the pad with both hands. as if it were the most precious thing in the world. She ran her fingers over the smooth cover. "Thank you," she whispered, hugging the pad to her chest. "Shall we draw together today?" Ethan asked. Lily nodded with such excitement that he chuckled. They sat down in their usual spot, under the oak tree. Ethan grabbed his own plastic chair and settled next to her. Lily opened the new pad carefully, as if afraid to spoil it. She chose a blue pencil from the box and began to draw. Ethan picked up a paper and started making a sketch too. Nothing too elaborate, just a simple house. Lily stopped drawing for a moment and watched his work. "You draw fast," she commented. "Many years of practice," Ethan explained. "But you also draw very well." They continued in comfortable silence for a few minutes, each focused on their own drawing. Then Lily asked something that made Ethan stop. "How do you make a house be born?" Ethan looked at her. She was looking at his drawing with genuine curiosity. "What do you mean, be born? Like, how do you make a house come out of nowhere and become real?" Ethan thought for a moment, choosing the right words. "I start with an idea, just like when you start a drawing. First, I think about what the house needs to have. How many rooms, where the kitchen is, where the light comes in. Then I draw all of that on paper, and then other people help build it for real." Lily processed that in silence. "So houses are born from people too?" Ethan smiled. "What a beautiful question." "They are born from their hearts," he answered softly. "Every house I design starts with what the person needs, what they dream of. So yes, they are born from hearts." Lily smiled and returned to her drawing, but Ethan noticed that she was drawing more carefully now, paying more attention to the details. "Ethan," she called after a few minutes. "Yes? Can you teach me to draw a real house, like the way architects do?" "Of course I can." Ethan grabbed a clean sheet and started drawing slowly, explaining each line. Lily watched with full attention, asking questions about every detail. Why is this wall thicker? Because it holds the weight of the upstairs floor. And why is the window here? To let the morning light into the bedroom. Lily absorbed everything like a sponge. When Ethan finished the basic drawing, she took her own paper and tried to copy it, using the techniques he had shown her. The result wasn't perfect, but it was much better than her previous drawings. It had more structure, more thought. "That's incredible," Ethan said with genuine pride. Lily looked at her own drawing and smiled. It was a smile full of accomplishment. "Thank you for teaching me. Thank you for wanting to learn." As the weeks passed, Ethan noticed subtle but important changes in Lily. She spoke more, without apologizing for every sentence. She laughed more, low but genuine sounds. She asked more questions, about architecture, about his job, about the world outside the children's home. And, most importantly, she was starting to truly trust him. It was on a Tuesday that it happened. Ethan was showing Lily photos of a recent project on his tablet when she asked, "Ethan, are you going to stop coming one day?" The question was so direct, so vulnerable, that he felt his heart clench. He put the tablet down and looked directly at her. "Why do you ask that?" Lily shrugged, fidgeting with Mr. Bear's fur. "Because everyone stops. People come and stay for a while, and then they stop. It's always like that." "Lily, look at me." She lifted her clear eyes. "I am not going to stop coming, I promise. You can trust me. But what if you get busy? What if you get tired?" "I won't get tired," Ethan said firmly. "You are important to me. Very important." Lily studied his face for a long moment. As if she were looking for signs of a lie, she found none. And then, slowly, she held out her small hand. Ethan looked at her hand, then at her face. Lily didn't say anything. She just kept her hand outstretched. Ethan felt a lump in his throat. He reached out his own hand and gently wrapped it around her small one. Lily squeezed, hard, as if she were holding on to something solid for the first time. They stayed like that for a long moment, in silence, hands clasped. They didn't need words. That simple gesture said everything. 2 weeks later, Ethan received the call he had been waiting for. "Mr. Cole." "It's Clara, from the children's home." "Hi, Clara. I have good news. The final evaluation has been approved. The process is complete. You have been officially approved for the adoption." Ethan closed his eyes, feeling the relief wash over him. "When can I pick her up?" "We can schedule it for 1 week from now. That gives you time to prepare everything, and for us to complete the final paperwork. 1 week. In 1 week, Lily would officially be his daughter." "Perfect," Ethan said, trying to keep his voice steady. "Thank you very much, Clara." "No, Mr. Cole. Thank you. Lily is going to have the family she has always deserved." When he hung up the phone, Ethan sat in silence for a long time. Then he stood up and went to the guest room at the end of the hall. He had 1 week. 1 week to transform that empty space into the perfect bedroom for Lily. Ethan didn't do things halfway. He hired a small trusted team and started working, but he didn't delegate anything important. He chose every detail himself, thinking of Lily with every decision. First, the bed. It had to be low, accessible, so she could get out of her wheelchair and into bed alone without needing help. Ethan found a perfect platform bed with an ideal height and rounded edges. The colors. Lily deserved something soft, calm, welcoming. Ethan chose light blue and white tones with touches of gold, colors that resembled the sky during the day and the stars at night. Speaking of stars, Ethan hired an expert to install a light system on the ceiling. They weren't simple stickers. They were projections of real stars, constellations that glowed softly when the main lights were turned off. Lily could fall asleep looking at a starry sky every night. The drawing table. This was Ethan's favorite touch. He had a custom-made drawing table built, with an adjustable height, completely accessible for the wheelchair. He bought quality art supplies, pencils, paints, brushes, papers of different textures, everything organized in easy-to-reach drawers. He installed low shelves on the walls, so Lily could reach her own books and toys without help. He placed a soft rug on the floor in case she wanted to play there. He installed lower light switches at the perfect height for her. Everything, absolutely everything, was planned to give Lily independence and comfort. Ethan spent his evenings working in the room, painting details, adjusting furniture, testing the starlights repeatedly until they were perfect. He did this with love. Every brush stroke, every tightened screw, every adjusted detail was an act of love for that girl who had stolen his heart in a matter of days. The night before the day to pick up Lily, Ethan stood in the doorway of the finished room, just observing. It was perfect. The light blue walls created a peaceful environment. The low bed with soft sheets and fluffy blankets looked inviting. The drawing table was positioned near the window to take advantage of the natural light. The shelves had some children's books that Ethan had bought, plus space for all of Lily's drawings, and on the ceiling, the stars waited to shine. Ethan imagined Lily entering there for the first time. He imagined the expression on her face. He imagined the smile. He smiled too, alone there in the hallway. Tomorrow. Tomorrow, he would tell her. Tomorrow, he would bring Lily home. To her home, where she would finally belong. Where no one leaves. Ethan leaned against the wall and took a deep breath. His whole life had been about building things. Buildings, houses, impressive structures. But this was different. This wasn't about bricks and concrete. It was about building a family, a home, a future. And Ethan was ready. More ready than he had ever been for anything in his life. The next morning, Ethan woke up early. He put on a simple but neat outfit. He had coffee but barely touched the food. The anxiety was a good kind. It was excitement. It was the beginning of everything. At 9 o'clock, he was in the car, driving towards St. Jude's Children's Home, with the final adoption document on the passenger seat, and his heart full of love for a clear-eyed girl who would soon officially be his daughter. Lily had no idea what was about to happen, but Ethan couldn't wait to tell her, to see her face when she found out, to bring her home, to start the life they both deserved, together. Ethan parked the car in front of St. Jude's Children's Home and sat for a moment, just breathing. The final adoption document was carefully folded in the inner pocket of his jacket. He had read and reread that paper so many times in the last 24 hours that he already knew every word by heart. But it wasn't about the paper. It was about what that paper meant. Lily would officially be his daughter, legally, permanently, forever. Ethan took one more deep breath, got out of the car, and walked toward the entrance of the children's home. Clara was waiting for him at the reception. She smiled when she saw him, and there were tears in her eyes. "Mr. Cole, today is the big day." "Today is the big day," Ethan repeated, feeling his own voice falter a little. "Lily is in the yard, as always. She has no idea. I thought it best to let you tell her. Thank you, Clara, for everything." She nodded, discreetly wiping her eyes. "Go. She's waiting for you." Ethan walked through the familiar corridor, each step echoing on the old linoleum floor. His heart was beating so hard he could hear his own pulse. When he opened the yard door, he saw her immediately. Lily was under the oak tree, as always, in her wheelchair, with Mr. Bear on her lap, looking at a drawing in the pad Ethan had given her. When she heard the door open, she looked up, her face instantly lit up. "Ethan," she waved, smiling that smile that now came easier, more natural. "You came. I was drawing the house you taught me yesterday, but I think I got the window proportion wrong." She kept talking as Ethan walked slowly toward her, but he barely registered the words. He was absorbing every detail, her blonde hair shining in the morning sun, her clear eyes full of life, the genuine smile, his daughter. Ethan stopped in front of her and crouched down, meeting her eye level, as he had done so many times before. But this time was different. Lily noticed something on his face. "Ethan, is everything okay?" she asked, her voice suddenly worried. Ethan smiled, feeling his own eyes sting. "Everything is more than okay, Lily." He took a deep breath. "Lily, I need to tell you something." She squeezed Mr. Bear to her chest, her eyes wide and attentive. Ethan took her small hand with his. "You know all those times I came to visit you, all the conversations we had, all the drawings we made together." Lily nodded slowly. "I came because you are very special to me, more special than anyone I have ever met in my life." Her eyes filled with confusion and hope at the same time. His voice failed. He cleared his throat. "I asked if I could be your family, if I could adopt you, and they said yes." Lily froze completely. She didn't even breathe. "Lily," Ethan said softly, squeezing her hand, "you're coming home with me. Today." The silence that followed seemed to last an eternity. Lily just stared at him, her clear eyes enormous, processing the words, trying to understand if she had heard correctly. What?" she whispered. "You're going to live with me. I'm going to be your dad. If you want me to... Her voice completely failed her, and then it all happened at once. Lily's face contorted. Her eyes filled with tears that started streaming down her cheeks, but at the same time, she started to laugh, a choked-up laugh, full of raw emotion. She was laughing and crying simultaneously, unable to control either one. "Really?" she managed to ask between sobs and laughs. "Really, truly?" "Really, truly," Ethan confirmed, and now he was crying too. Lily let go of Mr. Bear onto her chair and lunged forward, wrapping her arms around Ethan's neck with unexpected strength for someone so small. She hugged him as if her life depended on it, as if she was afraid he would disappear if she let go. Ethan wrapped her in his arms, lifting her from the chair and holding her against his chest. She was so light, so small, but the hug was so strong. "You won't leave?" Lily cried against his shoulder. "Do you promise you won't leave?" "I promise," Ethan said with a choked voice. "Never. You are my daughter now." forever. Lily cried louder, squeezing him so hard that Ethan felt every inch of love and fear and hope she carried. They stayed like that for a long time, in the middle of the yard, embraced, crying together. When Lily finally pulled back a little to look at his face, her eyes were red but shining. "Can I call you Dad?" she asked shyly. Ethan felt his heart explode in his chest. "I would love that." Lily smiled through her tears and hugged him again. "Dad," she whispered, testing the word. "My dad." Ethan closed his eyes, holding her against his chest. And for the first time in a long time, he felt he was exactly where he should be. Half an hour later, Ethan was carefully putting Lily into the back seat of the car. Clara had helped gather Lily's few belongings. It wasn't much. Some clothes, the drawing pad, the colored pencils, and of course Mr. Bear, which Lily held tight against her chest as if it were a treasure. The other children had come to say goodbye, some with envy, others with genuine happiness. Lily had waved to everyone, still teary-eyed but smiling. Now, as Ethan adjusted the seatbelt around her, Lily looked out the car window with an expression of wonder. "We're really going," she whispered, more to herself than to him. "We're really going," Ethan confirmed, closing the door gently. He got into the driver's seat, adjusted the rearview mirror, and looked at her through the glass. Lily was sitting up straight, holding Mr. Bear, her enormous eyes absorbing everything. "Ready?" Ethan asked. "Ready," she replied with a nervous smile. Ethan started the car and began to drive. On the way, Lily asked questions about everything. "Is your house big?" "It's reasonable," Ethan replied, smiling. "Does it have a yard?" "No, but it has a big balcony with a view of the city. And does it have a room for me?" Ethan looked at her through the rearview mirror and smiled. "It has a room just for you." Her eyes sparkled. "A whole room just for me." "A whole room just for you." Lily squeezed Mr. Bear to her chest and smiled out the window. As they approached the house, Ethan felt the anxiety grow. What if she didn't like it? What if it was too much? What if he had overdone it? But when he parked in the building garage and helped Lily back into her wheelchair, she looked at everything with fascination. "Is this it?" she asked when they got into the elevator. "This is it. On the 14th floor." She read the number on the panel. "On the 14th floor. Wow," she whispered. When the elevator opened and Ethan pushed the chair down the hall to the apartment door, Lily was in total silence, just watching everything closely. Ethan opened the door and pushed her chair inside. Lily stood motionless in the entrance, looking around with her mouth slightly open. The apartment was spacious and modern. Huge windows let the sunlight stream in, illuminating everything. The floor was light wood, completely smooth and accessible for the wheelchair. The furniture was simple but elegant. "It's big," Lily whispered. "Want to see the rest?" Ethan asked gently. She nodded, still a little stunned. Ethan led her through the living room, through the kitchen, showing her every space. Lily touched things carefully, as if she were afraid of breaking something. "Is all this yours?" she asked. "Ours," Ethan corrected. "It's ours now." She smiled at that. Finally, Ethan stopped in front of the door to her room. His heart was beating fast. This was the moment. "Lily," he said softly, "I have one thing I want to show you." He opened the door slowly. Lily looked inside, and she was completely paralyzed. The room was bathed in the soft afternoon light streaming through the window. The light blue walls created a calm, welcoming environment. The low bed was made up with soft sheets and fluffy pillows. The drawing table near the window had organized art supplies. The shelves had books and space for drawings, but Lily wasn't looking at any of that yet. She just looked at the room as a whole, trying to process it. Ethan pushed her chair inside slowly. "Is it for me?" Lily asked with a voice almost inaudible, broken by emotion. "Just for you," Ethan replied gently. Lily covered her mouth with her hands. Tears started to fall again. Ethan crouched beside the chair. "Everything here was made thinking of you. The bed is low for you to reach it alone. The table is adjustable. The shelves are at the right height. Everything is accessible. Lily couldn't speak. She just looked at everything, tears running freely down her face. Slowly, she let go of Mr. Bear onto her lap and reached out to touch the bed. Her fingers ran over the soft fabric of the blanket. Then she touched the drawing table, the organized pencils, the books on the shelf. Every touch was delicate, reverent, as if she couldn't believe all of this was real. "Ethan," she finally whispered. "It's the most beautiful room I have ever seen in my life." "There's one more thing," Ethan said with a smile. He went to the switch and turned off the main lights. Immediately, the ceiling lit up with hundreds of small, bright stars. Entire constellations projected onto the white ceiling, creating a perfect night sky. Lily gasped. "Are stars?" she whispered, looking up in total awe. "There are stars on the ceiling, for you to look at every night before you sleep," Ethan explained. Lily started crying again, but they were happy tears. She looked at the stars with an expression of pure wonder. No one ever, she couldn't form the sentences. Ethan approached and hugged her from behind, resting his chin lightly on her head. "You deserve all of this and much more," he said softly. "Welcome home, Lily." Lily turned in her chair and hugged Ethan with all the strength she had. "Thank you," she cried. "Thank you, thank you, thank you." Ethan held her, stroking her blonde hair gently. "You don't have to thank me. You're my daughter now. Taking care of you is what I want to do most." They stayed like that for a long time, embracing under the artificial stars, which shone as real as anything Lily had ever seen. That night was magical. Ethan prepared Lily's favorite dinner, simple spaghetti with tomato sauce, which she had mentioned once in their conversations. They ate together at the kitchen table, Lily still looking around every now and then, as if she needed to make sure everything was real. After dinner, Ethan helped Lily get ready for bed. He had bought soft, comfortable pajamas for her. He had adjusted everything in the bathroom to be accessible. When Lily was lying in her new bed, under the soft blanket, with Mr. Bear beside her, Ethan sat on the edge of the bed. "Comfortable?" he asked. "It's the softest bed I've ever laid in," Lily said with a sleepy smile. Ethan smiled and brushed a lock of blonde hair from her face. "If you need anything during the night, you can call me. My room is right down the hall. Okay. Good night, Lily." "Good night, Dad." Ethan felt his heart clench with emotion. He leaned in and gently kissed her forehead. "Good night, sweetheart." He stood up and went to the door, leaving only a small nightlight on. The stars on the ceiling shone softly. "Ethan," her voice called before he left. "Yes, this is real, right? I'm not going to wake up and be back at the children's home." Ethan went back to the bed and crouched down again. "It's real. You are home. You're home. And you'll be here tomorrow morning, and the day after tomorrow, and every day after that." Lily smiled, finally completely relaxing. "Thank you for choosing me," she whispered. "Thank you for letting me be your dad," Ethan replied. Lily closed her eyes, holding Mr. Bear against her chest. Ethan stayed there for a few more minutes, just watching her fall asleep, watching her face completely relax, without tension, without fear, just peace. When he finally left the room and closed the door slowly, he leaned against the hallway wall and took a deep breath. She was home. Lily was finally home. And Ethan had never felt so complete in his life. That night in their respective rooms, both Ethan and Lily slept better than they had in years. Lily, under the artificial stars that shone softly on the ceiling of the room that was all hers. Ethan, with his heart full of peace, knowing that he had done the most important thing he would ever do in his life. He had given a home to a child who deserved to be loved, and he had gained a daughter who filled his life with purpose and meaning. A complete family, finally united, forever. Lily's first morning in her new home began before the sun. She woke up in a silence that wasn't empty, but rather soft. She blinked, and her eyes focused on the ceiling. Stars. A private night sky shone softly above her. For a second, cold panic hit her. What if it was a dream? What if she truly woke up and was back at St. Jude's, on the hard cot, with the smell of disinfectant? But then she heard it. The low sound of metal on ceramic, the bubbling of a coffee maker, and a smell, a sweet, warm smell that she didn't recognize. It wasn't a dream. The bed was low, just as Ethan had promised. With an effort that became smaller every day, she wheeled herself into the wheelchair. The wooden floor was smooth and perfect, and she rolled silently down the hallway, following the sound and the smell. Ethan was in the kitchen, his back to her, wearing a t-shirt and sweatpants. He was focused on a frying pan, and the sweet smell came from there. "Good morning," she said, her voice small in the large apartment. Ethan turned around instantly, and the smile on his face dispelled any remnants of her fear. "Good morning, Em. Sleep well." "I slept with the star," she replied. "I'm glad. Are you hungry? I'm attempting pancakes." Lily rolled closer, curious. She had never eaten pancakes. They ate at the large kitchen table, the morning light flooding the space. Ethan's pancakes were a little crooked and burnt at the edges, but for Lily, it was the best meal of her life. That first breakfast was the foundation of their new routine. A gentle, unhurried routine began to form. Ethan, to the surprise of his entire team, started working predominantly from home. The CEO of one of the country's largest architecture firms now held his meetings via video, with his office door ajar. Mornings were sacred. They started with coffee together. Ethan asked easy questions, like what colors she liked best or what animal she thought was the funniest. Then it was art hour. Lily went to her drawing table in her room with her new pencils and hardcover pad. Ethan brought his laptop to the dining table, just a few feet away, and they worked in a companionable silence. He watched her out of the corner of his eye. He noticed the changes. Lily's strokes on the paper, once timid and light, afraid of making a mistake, were now firmer. She no longer apologized when a pencil tip broke. She simply picked up the sharpener. She started mixing paints, discovering new colors, unafraid of making a mess. In the afternoon came play breaks. Ethan's apartment, once a minimalist, silent sanctuary, now echoed with laughter. Lily's favorite game was the wormhole. Ethan pushed her in the wheelchair at full speed down the long wooden hallway, making tight turns and vroom-vroom sounds, always ending with a tickle attack in the living room. The place that was a house was now becoming a home. And with comfort came curiosity. Lily, feeling safe to talk without being a nuisance, began to ask questions, and her focus was on Ethan's mysterious job. "Dad," she called one day. The word still sounded new and shy in her mouth, but she used it with quiet pride. Ethan put down the tablet he was reviewing instantly. "Yes, Em?" She rolled up to him, a drawing in her hand. It was another house. How do you know the house won't fall down when you make a real one?" Ethan blinked, surprised by the depth of the question. "Well," he said, thinking how to explain, "the house has a skeleton just like us. It's the beams and columns. They hold all the weight so the walls don't collapse." "A house skeleton?" She giggled. "Exactly." Seeing the genuine interest in her eyes, Ethan did something impulsive. He went to his office and came back with a large roll of paper. It was a real project, a blueprint of a beach house. He spread it out on the dining table. Lily's eyes widened. It was a sea of blue lines, symbols and numbers. "This is yours. Is it a map?" "Almost. It's a floor plan. It's like looking at the house from above, ours without the roof." She traced the thin lines with her finger. "Where is the door?" "Here," Ethan pointed. "And this is the living room. And here." "Windows," Lily interrupted, pointing. "They are very big windows." Ethan smiled. "And why are they big?" "To let the light in," she replied, as if it were the most obvious thing in the world. He felt a lump of pride in his throat. She wasn't just looking, she was seeing. The real moment of connection happened on a rainy Saturday. The rain lashed against the huge windows, and the world outside seemed grey and distant. Ethan decided to organize his home office, which was full of material samples from old projects. Cardboard boxes, mailing tubes, small squares of marble, fabric samples, pieces of packaging foam. It was a pile of expensive trash. Lily rolled in, curious about the mess. "What is all this?" she asked, poking a piece of styrofoam. "Old stuff, mostly," Ethan said, separating what was going for recycling. Lily picked up a cardboard tube that a blueprint had come in and balanced it on top of a small box. "It looks like a tower," she murmured. She picked up another piece of cardboard and propped it up on two smaller boxes. She frowned, concentrated. Ethan stopped organizing and just watched her. She was on the floor testing the balance of the pieces, creating a small structure. Suddenly, she looked at him, her eyes shining with an idea that had just been born. "Dad?" "Yes, sweetheart. We could make a mini house." Ethan looked at the multi-million-dollar contracts waiting in his email. Then he looked at his daughter on the floor, holding a cardboard tube and a scrap of fabric. There was no choice to be made. He smiled and slid from his office chair to the floor, sitting cross-legged beside her. "A mini house," Ethan repeated. "That's the best idea I've heard all week. Where do we start, Chief Architect?" Lily's face lit up in a way Ethan had never seen. It was the pure joy of creation. "First," Lily said, very serious, picking up an empty shoebox, "we need the walls." The next 2 hours were a glorious chaos. It wasn't a precise architectural model. It was something much better. It was fun. Ethan brought tape, white glue, and blunt scissors. Lily was in complete command. "The door has to be wide, Dad." "So the wheelchair can pass," she instructed. Ethan carefully cut it. "And the windows," she exclaimed. "They have to be very big." They used a piece of clear plastic from a package to be the main window. Lily took a scrap of blue fabric and glued it on as curtains. The cardboard tube became a chimney, although Lily insisted it was a tower for looking at the stars. They glued their fingers together. They laughed when the kitchen wall collapsed and they had to rebuild it. Lily drew tiny furniture on scraps of paper and glued them inside. When they finished, they stepped back to admire their work. It was a lovely mess. The glue was still drying, the walls were crooked, and the tower was dangerously leaning to the left. "It's perfect," Lily whispered, awestruck. Ethan looked at the crooked cardboard structure and then at his daughter's face, smeared with glue and happiness. "Yes, Em," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "It's perfect." That rainy afternoon on the office floor, Ethan and Lily didn't just build a cardboard house. They started building something much more lasting. It was the beginning of a creative bond, a secret language of projects and dreams that belonged only to the two of them. Happiness had become the new normal. Their routine was a cocoon of security. Pancake mornings, drawing afternoons, evenings watching animated movies with Lily curled up in a blanket on the sofa. The crooked cardboard mini house they built now occupied a place of honor on her bedroom shelf. Lily's room, with its stars on the ceiling, was her sanctuary, until the night the past broke down the door. It was 3 a.m. Ethan woke up instantly, his heart pounding. It wasn't a gradual sound, it was a scream. A sharp scream full of pure terror coming from Lily's room. Ethan jumped out of bed and ran down the hallway, almost skidding on the wooden floor. He flung open her bedroom door. Lily was sitting up in bed, her eyes wide and but completely empty. She was shaking violently, clutching Mr. Bear. The stars on the ceiling still shone softly, a mockery of the peace that had been broken. "Dad!" she screamed, even though he was already there. "Lily! I'm here!" He ran and sat on the bed, wrapping her in his arms. She was drenched in cold sweat. She grabbed him, burying her face in his chest. trembling so hard that her teeth chattered. "What is it? A nightmare? You're safe. You're home." She couldn't speak, just sobbed. But it wasn't a cry of sadness. It was a cry of panic. It took 20 minutes for her to stop shaking. Ethan held her the whole time, gently rocking her, telling her it was okay. "What did you dream of, Em?" She shook her head against his chest. "I don't know. It wasn't a dream. It was noise." "What noise?" "Very loud. And lights, white and red lights, flashing. And smell." She sniffled. "Smoke smell." Ethan felt a chill. "It's okay now. It was just a bad dream." But it wasn't. It happened again 3 nights later. This time, he heard her scream about glass, and again the following week. Lights, noise, smoke, and a feeling of total darkness, of being trapped. The third time, as Ethan was comforting her, Lily looked at him, her clear eyes filled with a terrified confusion. She didn't look like a 6-year-old. She looked like an old soul holding a secret that even she didn't know. "Dad," she whispered, her voice hoarse from crying so much. "Yes, sweetheart. Did something bad happen to me?" Ethan stopped rocking her. He looked her in the eyes. "What do you mean?" Before the children's home. I don't remember anything from before, but in my dreams, and it hurts. There's something bad." "Did it happen?" Ethan felt the floor disappear. He had been so focused on building her future that he had never stopped to investigate her past. He adopted her because he saw her, because he loved her. He didn't know where she had come from. He didn't know why she was in a wheelchair. He never asked, and she was too small to tell. He kissed her forehead. "I don't know, Lily, but I will find out. I promise." The next day, Ethan drove to St. Jude's. He looked calm on the outside, but inside a cold anger grew, not at Lily, but at the world that had allowed her to suffer alone for so long. Clara greeted him at the reception, surprised. "Mr. Cole, good to see you. Is Lily all right?" "She's having nightmares," Ethan said, getting straight to the point. "Clara, I need to know how she got here. I never asked for the details. I need her complete file." Clara's tired smile disappeared. She nodded solemnly. "I thought the social workers had explained, but the process was so fast. Come with me." She led him to the archive room. She pulled out a thin, yellowed folder with the name Lily handwritten on it. She opened it on the desk. Ethan started reading, and his world crumbled. It wasn't a long story. It was a short, brutal police report. Date, 3 years ago. Victim 1, driver, and Victim 2, passenger, deceased at the scene. Victim 3, Lily, 3 years old, found trapped in the back seat, cause of accident, high-speed frontal collision. There were photos. Ethan looked away. He read the medical report attached. The collision, the impact, the spinal cord injury, paraplegia. She was 3 years old. She survived an accident that instantly killed her parents and woke up alone in a hospital, unable to feel her legs. The white lights, the headlights of the other car, the noise, the metal twisting, the breaking glass, the red lights, the sirens of the ambulance and police, the smell of smoke, the destroyed engine, the darkness. Her, trapped, alone in the wrecked car. They weren't nightmares, they were memories. Ethan closed the folder. He was pale. "She was too small to process it," Clara said softly. "She stopped speaking for 6 months. When she arrived here, all we knew was her first name. The trauma blocked out the rest." Ethan drove home, the weight of that folder heavy in his heart. He found Lily drawing at her table. Sunlight streamed through the window, illuminating her blonde hair. She looked so peaceful. He sat beside her, in the small chair he now kept there. "Hi, Dad. Hi, Em." He waited for her to finish the stroke she was making. "Lily, remember you asked me if something bad had happened to you?" She stopped drawing. She squeezed the pencil hard. Yes, I went to find out for you, because you don't need to be afraid of things you don't understand. Ethan took a deep breath, searching for the kindest words that existed. When you were very, very little, Em, you had a mommy and a daddy. Before the children's home. Her eyes widened. I did, you did, and they loved you very much. One day, the three of you were together in a car, and there was an accident. Lily froze. It was very fast. And your parents, they were badly hurt. They didn't make it, Lily. He watched her face, searching for any sign of recognition. There was none. Only confusion. And you got hurt too, Ethan continued, gently. It was in that accident that your legs stopped working. That's why you used the chair. He reached out and touched her arm. Your nightmares, Em, the lights, the noise, the smoke, and they are just memories. It's your body remembering something your head was too small to understand. It's nothing that can hurt you now. Lily was silent for a long time. She looked at the unfinished drawing of the house in front of her. Tears began to stream down her face, but she wasn't in a panic. It was a different kind of crying, a slow, mournful cry. She turned to Ethan, her clear eyes flooded. You know what's the saddest, Dad? His voice cracked. What, sweetheart? I tried just now, but I don't remember them. I don't remember what my parents looked like. That broke Ethan. He didn't say anything. He just lifted her from the wheelchair and pulled her onto his lap, holding her tightly against his chest. She buried her face in his shoulder and cried. She cried for the first time, not out of fear but out of loss. He stroked her hair, rocking her as he had on the night of the nightmare. It's okay not to remember, Lily. It's okay. But I wanted to. I know. He held her until the sobs subsided. Then he pulled her back a little so he could look into her eyes. You don't have to be afraid of this anymore. You don't have to keep this to yourself anymore. I'm here now. You'll never carry this alone again. Lily hugged him back, and for the first time since Ethan met her, she seemed whole. The pain had a name, and now she had someone to share it with. Revealing the truth about Lily's past was like draining a wound. It hurt. It was terrible. But it was the only way to truly begin to heal. The nightmares didn't disappear overnight, but their power lessened. When she woke up shaking from the ghostly smell of smoke or the sound of breaking glass, Ethan was there. He no longer said, "It was just a bad dream." He hugged her and said, "It was just a memory. It's over. You are safe. I'm here." And every time he said it, she believed it a little more. The darkness of the past was finally giving way to the light of the present. With healing came the next logical step. Their life inside the apartment was a wonderful cocoon. But Lily needed the world, and the world needed to know her. The first step, school. For Ethan, building an 80-story skyscraper was less stressful. He spent weeks researching, making calls, and visiting campuses. He didn't just want a school that would accept Lily's wheelchair. He wanted a school that would celebrate her. He finally found Westwood Elementary, a private institution known for its arts curriculum and its state-of-the-art accessibility program. On the morning of the visit, Lily was visibly nervous. She held Mr. Bear so tightly that her knuckles were white. "What if they don't like me, Dad?" Ethan knelt in front of her chair, straightening the collar of her jacket. "Lily, it's impossible not to like you. You just need to be yourself. And if you don't like them, we'll go to another one. Deal?" She took a deep breath and nodded. The school was the opposite of St. Jude's. The walls were painted in vibrant colors, and the windows went from floor to ceiling, flooding the hallways with light. There wasn't a single step in sight. Smooth, wide ramps connected all levels. A woman with a warm smile and curly hair was waiting for them at the entrance. "Mr. Cole, and you must be Lily. I'm Teacher Sarah. I'm so excited to finally meet you." Lily hid a little behind Ethan, but gave a small nod. Teacher Sarah didn't address Ethan. She crouched down a bit, speaking directly to Lily. "I hear you're an artist. Lily's eyes lifted. I like to draw. What a coincidence, the teacher said. Me too. Come on. I want to show you our room. The first grade classroom was a paradise. There was a reading nook full of beanbag chairs, a terrarium with a sleepy lizard, and most importantly, a creation corner that took up almost a quarter of the space. There were easels, jars of paint, clay, and a huge low drawing table, perfectly accessible. This one here, Teacher Sarah said, lightly tapping the table, has been waiting for you. Lily rolled up to the art table. She ran her fingers over the smooth wooden surface. She looked at the other children, who were busy with different activities. Some looked at her with curiosity, but none with pity. Do you think you'd like to draw here? Ethan asked softly. Lily looked at the teacher, at the art corner, and then at her father. A slow, genuine smile spread across her face. Can I start today? Ethan laughed, relief washing over him. How about Monday? Lily was enrolled. The first piece of the puzzle of her new life was in place. 2 days later, Ethan decided it was time for the second piece. I'm not working from home today, he said during breakfast. Her face fell slightly. Oh. Because, he continued, smiling, you're coming with me. I want to show you where I really work. Lily's excitement was immediate. She had seen the blueprints, the sketches, but she had never seen the place where the houses were born. The Cole Architecture Office occupied the top 3 floors of the tallest building Ethan had designed downtown. When they entered the marble lobby, Lily looked up at the ceiling that seemed miles away. Wow. Just wait, Ethan said. He led her to the private elevator. The elevator went up silently and at high speed. Lily pressed her face against the glass, watching the city shrink below them, the cars looking like ants. We're flying! She shouted, laughing. The elevator door opened directly into the office. It was a vast open-plan space, bathed in sunlight streaming through the glass walls. Dozens of people worked at modern white desks. There were huge blueprints hanging on the walls and models everywhere. Intricate, professional models of entire cities, resorts, and futuristic skyscrapers. When Ethan entered, pushing Lily's chair, the office, which had been full of the low hum of conversations and keyboard clicks, became completely silent. Everyone stopped. They had heard the rumors. They had noticed the change in the boss, Mr. Cole, the intense, workaholic and ruthless boss who demanded perfection, now left at 5 in the afternoon. He smiled during conference calls. He had cancelled 3 international trips. Now they saw why. Ethan smiled, feeling prouder than when he won his first international award. Everyone, good morning. I want to introduce you to the most important person in my life. This is Lily, my daughter. Lily blushed but waved shyly. A woman with stylish glasses and short hair approached. It was Megan, Ethan's lead designer, a woman known for her brilliance and her intimidating personality. Megan knelt beside Lily's chair, and her stern face melted into pure kindness. Hi, Lily. I'm Megan. Your dad has told me a lot about you. You work with him? Lily asked. I try to keep up. Megan chuckled. Your dad is the boss, but I'm the one who chooses the pretty colors. Lily giggled. The ice was broken. The office came back to life, but with a different energy. People came one by one, not to talk to the boss, but to meet his daughter. Lily, this is Mark. He's the engineer. He makes the house and skeleton so it doesn't fall down, Ethan said. Like a dinosaur skeleton? Lily asked. Mark, a big bearded man, laughed out loud. Exactly. Ethan took her through the model room, where the most expensive and detailed models were kept. Lily was in absolute ecstasy. It was like a magical toy store. She looked at the tiny buildings, the perfect fake trees, the little plastic cars. Dad, is all this real? It will be, Ethan explained. First, we build small, like our mini house. That way we can see if we made any mistakes before building the big one. He pointed to a stunning model of a beachfront resort with small blue pools. Did you design this? We designed it, he corrected. I had the idea. Megan chose the colors, Mark made the skeleton, and 50 other people helped put it all together. Lily looked around at all the people working and then at the model. So, she said slowly, processing. A house is like a family. No one builds it alone. Ethan stopped. He looked at her, his heart so full it felt like it would burst. You are absolutely right, Em. No one builds it alone. He led her to his private office in the corner. It was a huge room with a view that dominated the city. On the main desk, there was a single rolled-out blueprint. Lily rolled up to it. I know this, she said, excited. It's a floor plan, and there is the kitchen, and there a very big window. Exactly, Ethan said, beaming with pride. This is a new house I'm designing. Who is it for? Ethan smiled. It's still a secret. By the end of the day, Lily knew almost everyone's name. She had helped Megan choose a shade of blue for a hotel lobby and had taught Mark how to draw a Mr. Bear, which he promised to tape to his desk. When they got back to the car, Lily was buzzing. Dad, your job is the coolest in the world. You think so? You make houses for people. You make safe places, like you made for me. Ethan swallowed hard, unable to answer. That night, the apartment felt even more like a home. The visit to the office had inspired Lily. After dinner, she rolled over to the corner of the living room where the crooked cardboard mini-house was kept. Dad, she called. Yes. I don't think our house is finished. Ethan smiled. No. What's missing? It's missing a garden. Ethan grabbed the box of new markers and sat down on the floor next to her. You're right. A house needs a garden. For half an hour, they worked together on their first renovation. Ethan used green construction paper and cut a lawn to fit around the base of the shoebox. Lily, with a surgeon's concentration, picked up the colored markers. She started drawing flowers, small red flowers, white daisies, and clumps of blue blooms. She drew a stone path leading up to the front door, which Ethan had cut wide enough for an imaginary wheelchair. When she finished, the cardboard house was transformed. It was cheerful. Now it's done, she said, satisfied. Ethan looked at the small masterpiece, the crooked glue, the sloping shoebox walls, the cardboard tube chimney, and now the vibrant garden. It was honestly the best thing he had ever built. He picked up a black marker, one he used to sign multi-million-dollar blueprints. Just one more thing is missing, he said. With his precise, elegant handwriting, on the roof of the box, he wrote, Ethan and Lily's home. They stood in silence, just looking at it. The school, the office, the home, the past resolved. The future beginning. Everything was there in that crooked cardboard box. Lily turned to him. Her eyes were shining, but they weren't the tears of fear or sadness he knew so well. They were tears of pure happiness. She leaned out of the chair and threw herself into his arms. Ethan caught her, hugging her tightly. She buried her face in his shoulder and whispered words he would never forget. I'm proud to be your daughter. Ethan closed his eyes, a solitary tear escaping and falling onto her blonde hair. He squeezed her a little tighter, feeling her slight weight in his arms, the weight that had become the center of his universe. And I'm proud to be your dad, Lily, he replied, his voice thick with emotion. I am so proud to be your dad. The following months solidified the foundations of that new family. Daniel and Lily's life found a rhythm. It wasn't a rigid routine, but a soft melody of moments that fit together. Mornings began with pancakes. Ethan, who once barely knew how to turn on the stove for anything but coffee, was now a proud master of making them perfectly round. They ended with the trip to Westwood School. Lily, who at first hid behind her father's chair, now rolled down the hallways with confidence, shouting "Good morning" to teacher Sarah and heading straight for the creation corner. Her drawings, once small and timid, now exploded with color and took up the entire page. Ethan had rearranged his entire life. Cole architecture was still his empire, but now he governed it differently. International trips were delegated. Meetings that stretched into the night were rare. His team, who at first found the new Mr. Cole, who smiled and kept regular hours strange, now respected him even more. He left the office promptly at 4 in the afternoon, because the afternoons were sacred. There was physical therapy, a hard work that Lily faced with a determination that surprised Ethan. It was the strong skeleton exercise, as she called it, and she celebrated every victory. And there was talk therapy, where, with the help of a gentle psychologist, Lily learned to turn the scary memories of smoke and glass into stories that could no longer hurt her. And, of course, there was playing. The cardboard mini-house, kept like a trophy, had already undergone 3 renovations and now included a garage made from a tissue box. The wormhole in the main hallway of the apartment was a daily tradition that usually ended with both of them laughing breathlessly on the living room floor. The nightmares had become distant ghosts. The stars on Lily's ceiling were now just pretty lights, a private sky that promised peaceful dreams, not a refuge from fear. She was healed. She was safe. She was home. The change was so subtle that Ethan almost didn't notice it. It was on a bright, warm Saturday morning, the kind of day that pulled the city outside. They were on the balcony, Lily drawing the outline of the distant buildings with her new colored pencils, and Ethan pretending to read the newspaper, but actually just watching her. "Dad," she said, without taking her eyes off the paper, her tongue stuck in the corner of her mouth in concentration. "Yes, sweetheart. Today is park day." Ethan lowered the newspaper, blinking. She didn't ask. She stated, the park. The place that, for Ethan, had always represented the opposite of that orphanage yard. At St. Jude's, she was an island, watched by visitors. The park was an ocean of people. He had never taken her, afraid that the crowd would scare her or that the curious glances might break the trust they had built. But now, she was asking. "You want to go to the park?" he asked, trying to keep his voice neutral. Lily finally looked at him. There was no fear in her eyes. There was no hesitation. There was only the certainty of a 6-year-old girl who wanted to play. "Yes, I want to go on the swing." Ethan's heart leaped. She wasn't afraid of the world. "All right, let's go to the park." An hour later, they were there. The park was full of life. Children screaming, dogs barking, families picnicking. Ethan felt a pang of protective anxiety, but Lily seemed perfectly calm. She guided the wheelchair over the gravel path with skill, as if she knew the place. Some children looked. Some adults gave a second glance, but Lily didn't notice, or maybe she simply didn't care. She wasn't looking down at her own lap as she did under that old tree. She was looking up, at the sky, at the treetops. They found the playground area, which, to Ethan's relief, was modern and accessible. There was an adapted swing with a secure seat and access ramp. Ethan transferred her from the chair to the swing and fastened the belts. "Ready?" he asked. "Hiya, Dad," she giggled, before he even started. Ethan pushed her. Slowly at first, then harder, as she asked. Lily threw her head back and closed her eyes, her blonde hair flying with the movement. The afternoon sun hit her face, and she smiled. A pure, open smile. She felt the wind on her face. It was the wind of freedom. She wasn't the girl in the wheelchair. She wasn't the orphan. She was just Lily. A girl on a swing, flying as high as she could. Ethan stopped pushing and just watched. He thought about that first day at the children's home, the silent sadness that had broken him. And he looked at her now, radiant as the sun itself, and knew that she was complete. And so was he. That night, the apartment was silent. It was a good kind of tired. the fatigue of a day full of sunshine and laughter. Lily had showered and eaten dinner, but seemed thoughtful. Ethan found her in her room, but she wasn't in bed. She was standing in front of her bookshelf, where Ethan and Lily's home was on display of honor. She was touching the crooked cardboard tube chimney. "Dad?" she called softly, still with her back to him. Ethan leaned against the doorframe. "I'm here, Em." She turned around, her eyes serious, filled with an intensity he recognized. It was the same intensity he saw in the mirror before a major project. "In your office, you build real houses. Today at the park, someone built those swings. We built this cardboard house." She paused, gathering her thoughts. "Can I build things too?" The question hit him with the force of a revelation. It wasn't a question about playing. It was a question about purpose, about the future. Ethan entered the room and knelt beside her chair, so they could look at the crooked model together. "Lily," he said, his voice full of emotion, "you already build things. You helped me build this house. You helped me choose the colors in Megan's office. You helped me, more than anything, build this family." He placed his hand over hers, on top of the cardboard roof. "But yes, you can build buildings, bridges, parks, anything you want. Architecture doesn't happen in the legs, Em. It happens here." He gently touched her head. "And it happens here." He touched the center of her chest. "And you have more heart and more brilliant ideas than anyone I know." He looked into her eyes and gave the smile that was now reserved just for her. "You can build anything you want." Lily smiled, a slow smile, full of understanding. She no longer needed to ask. She now knew. Later, the nighttime routine was complete. Pajamas on, teeth brushed. The apartment was bathed in the soft light of evening. Ethan tucked Lily into bed, pulling the soft blanket up to her chin. Mr. Bear was settled beside the pillow. The stars on the ceiling shone softly. "Good night, sweetheart," he said, leaning in to kiss her forehead. He straightened up to leave, but her voice stopped him at the door. "Ethan," he stopped. She rarely called him that. It was the name she used when something was very, very important. He turned around. "Yes, sweetheart." Lily didn't say anything. She just opened her arms. An invitation, a summary of everything. Ethan felt a lump in his throat. He went back and sat on the edge of the bed. He pulled her into a hug, and she wrapped around him with all her strength. He held her, her face buried in his chest, and he rested his chin on the top of her head, breathing in the smell of baby soap and home. The hug contained everything: the park, the promise, the conquered nightmares, the cardboard houses, and the real houses they would one day build. Lily sighed, a sound of pure peace, and her body relaxed in his arms, the day's tiredness finally winning. She fell asleep there, safe in his embrace. Ethan didn't let go. He stayed there, sitting on her bed, holding his daughter. He looked up at the ceiling, at the private night sky he had created for her. The stars gently illuminated the final scene: the billionaire who had everything and had nothing, and the girl who had nothing and became everything. With her comforting weight in his arms, Ethan closed his eyes, his heart full and peaceful. And there, under the glow of 1,000 artificial suns, they fell asleep in peace, a complete family forever.